The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I'm coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California. That's right, I am back from South Texas. I'm back from the Broken Skull Ranch. My first podcast I've recorded since I've been gone. I tell you what, I just got finished doing this exact open, and I looked down at my Zoom H4n recorder, and the pause light was flashing, which means I did not push the button hard enough and did not record. So anyway, luckily, I don't have a guest here. Luckily, I didn't miss capturing any audio gold. But man, I tell you what, I got to learn to hit that pause button just a little. I got to put a little bit more mustard on it. Let me just keep it family friendly. Put a little bit more mustard on my finger when I hit that button to make sure it records. Thankfully, I looked down at about the 2-minute mark and realized what had happened. Holy smokes. What an idiot. I've been podcasting, hell, I guess you could say I turned pro about 3 years ago. I don't know if I'm pro level, but anyway, I turned pro about 3 years ago. You'd think doing something so damn simple, sitting here with a microphone in your hand, a little recorder on the table, that you could just push a button and make sure that you capture everything. It's unbelievable. Thank God Fluffy Guy, Gabriel Iglesias, wasn't over here letting out some damn podcast gold, and I missed about an hour of it. That didn't happen again, but nonetheless, hell, I just start this thing over. What the hell, man? This is my first podcast since getting back from Texas. And I'll tell you what, I was in there in the kitchen. I've got about 3 or 4 Unleashed podcasts banked up. And I was sitting there, I've been wondering for the past few days, what am I going to talk about on this Tuesday show, family friendly? Who am I going to talk to? Just kind of couldn't think of anybody I wanted to talk to. And a goddamn car chase was going on television, so I started watching the car chase, and the car chase lasted for a couple of hours, and I was sitting there watching. It was a black SUV, or maybe it was a Lincoln Navigator or something like that, going down to 101. It jumped on the 405, then it got on the 118, and a black and white highway patrol was behind it, and a helicopter was following it everywhere. And so, man, I said, you got to go do your podcast. So I hit the record button on my remote control so I could get to the finish of the car chase and, see what happened and see what they were going to charge them with. All these people, these car chases, I don't know about in your state, your neck of the woods, your city. These car chases out here in Los Angeles happen all the time. And you're just entranced. You just sit there and watch the TV. And sometimes I think this guy was going like 80, 85, maybe at 90 a couple times. But then a lot of it's just that slower speed driving. And they can't really do the pit maneuver because of all the other vehicles on the 405. And you can't put anybody in harm's way. And it's always interesting when I see these car chases, because when there's a car chase, for some reason, the highway is always wide open. And they're hauling ass. And I'm sitting there thinking, I drive down that same highway every single day. Every time I do it, it's packed to the gills with cars and traffic. Where's all the damn cars and traffic to slow this son of a gun down? Hell, he's running wide open, 85 miles an hour. If it was that easy to drive around Los Angeles, it'd be a snap to live here. I love Los Angeles for the weather. Anyway, I had to push the record button to record the high-speed chase, get back to my podcast, wondering who I was going to talk to. And then I said, man, curiosity killed the cat. I had to go hit the remote control, get on the list, and find my program and push the play button and find out how the car chase ended. But I didn't push the extend recording button, so I missed the payoff of the high-speed chase on the damn television. I guess it's like recording a podcast. I didn't get the finish of the damn chase, so now I don't know what happened, who the bad guy was, what he was running from. Was he under the influence? So I messed that up, but nonetheless. I sit there, was going through my phone and rolling through my contacts, and all of a sudden, Ricky Morton's name popped up. I said, man, I ain't talked to Ricky in a while, man. Let me just call and say hi to him. This wasn't even about a podcast. I was just going to call and say hi to him. So, man, I called Ricky Morton up, and he said, hey, man, what's going on? We talked about 20 minutes just shooting the breeze. And he said, hey, Steve, if you get a chance, could you mention the name of my wrestling school on your podcast? I said, yeah, what's your school called? He says, School of Morton. It's in Chuckey, Tennessee. I said, all right, I'll give you a plug on the podcast. So I talked to Punky for a little bit longer and hung up. And then I hadn't talked to D.C., Daniel Cormier, in quite some time. So I called him and it went to voicemail, and I just went about making my lunch. And D.C. called me back. So we started talking the fight game, shooting the breeze, talking about the UFC event where he had to take on Anderson Silva, and about, the fans and what he was doing to take care of business with Anderson Silva versus John Jones. And then that could have been a podcast, but he was in his car driving. And I said, you know what? I said, I've been talking to a lot of really cool people. Why don't I just call Punky back, Ricky Morton, and let's talk about his wrestling school? Because people always ask me, hey, man, you ever going to open up a wrestling school? No, I just ain't got time. And I'd like to go to one and talk to some people about a few things and chip in some 411 or some of my takes or some of my opinions on, getting over, selling, fire, Mean Streak as a heel. I mean, presentation, promos, all that stuff, but not do it every day. But Punky's got a school over there in Chuckey, Tennessee, and if you know wrestling, if you know the Rock and Roll Express, well, first of all, you know the Rock and Roll Express if you know wrestling. A lot of the younger crowd might not, but Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, two legendary tag teams. And Ricky's got a school down there. He's got his Facebook page. It's, I guess it's Ricky Morton, School of Morton is the Facebook page. And you can get in there and find out how to sign up for his school. He's got a couple of, I think he said he had a couple of 16-foot rings, and you'll hear it in the podcast here in a minute. But I'll tell you what, man, you talk about a hell of a damn worker. We're going to hear about some of his singles matches with Ric Flair, some of what he's teaching down there at the school. And like I said, there's in the podcast, there's a lot of training schools scattered throughout the United States. Hard to find a good one. I know Lance Storm runs a good one, but that's over in Canada. As far as the states go, I'm not really up to speed with where all the schools are. I know WWE has their facility, which is obviously world class, but not everybody can get down there. Not everybody's going to make that grade of athletic person that they're looking for to get in that school. But I'm telling you, just as far as technically teaching you learn how to work, how to cut a promo, Ricky Morton is about as good as it's going to get. Because when you talk about the people with great salesmanship, the first two names that always come into mind when talking about selling is Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Morton. And then you can have a whole host of other people. But when you're talking about selling, those two names immediately come to everyone's mind. And also with the way Punky operated with the fire, and the guy, probably weighed 175, 180 pounds at his peak. He never wrestled like a cruiserweight. That was what I liked about Punky. He never took any crazy bumps. And that's so smart, to work pro style and not take crazy bumps. And right now, at the age of 60, Punky still wrestles a couple times a week, and he teaches at school. So it was good catching up to him, man. He's one of the, we're all one of the boys, but there's a couple of boys that just like at a different level. And Punky, man, he had his wild streak. And we talk about that a little bit, but in the ring, as far as being a pro's pro, like a guy like him, Bobby Eaton, a Ric Flair, a Steamboat, going, but those certain guys that are so good, the Rock and Roll Express drew so much money back in their day. God dang, when their music hit, to just shrieks of the women, of the chicks in attendance were just piercing how over those guys were. You talk about drawing real money, putting asses in seats. You talk about being a great opponent for any heel tag team that they worked with. Specifically, I love their matches with Ole and Arn. Love their matches with Midnight Express. Wonderful Jim Cornette there. I mean, you talk about some good ass action. That was it. So anyway, it ends up, I just called Ricky out of the blue on my Skype number. He didn't even know I was going to call him. So we talked for about 50, 52 minutes, whatever it is, and just shoot the breeze and catch up on some old times. But, hey, man, if you're looking for a School of Morton down there in Chuckey, Tennessee is a good place to go. If you want to learn from a guy who's going to shoot straight with you, tell you how it is, and not blow a bunch of smoke up your ass, that's a guy to go talk to. But anyway, man, it's good to be back here in Los Angeles, back in The weather's kind of hot out here, but for, SoCal, it's certainly a lot cooler than South Texas. If I could take this weather down to South Texas, I'd be in heaven. I'm looking forward to the Broken Skull Challenge. We were going to start filming this show in about a month. We're going to roll cameras on August 29th. I've seen some of the contestants coming out this year, and they are off the chart. This is going to be an exciting season. It's the toughest show on television. It's on CMT, Country Music Television, and it's about to get hot and real heavy out there. We've got some new challenges. It's going to be absolutely epic. This show is going to air in November, so we're going to get it, we're going to do it, we're going to turn it around, put it on the TV, and then I tell you what, man, as soon as we wrap up, I'm getting in my RV, I'm driving down to South Texas with my shotgun, I'm going to meet Ted Fowler 361 down there, he's going to have his bird dogs, and man, we're going dove hunting, and I cannot wait, because most of the time, since they dropped Redneck Island, that's going to free up 30 days' time for me. So I will be down there chasing those doves. I haven't been able to dove hunt in about 10 or 15 years just because of my schedule. So it's going to be a breath of fresh air, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't really hit too many birds with shotgun. With a shotgun, believe it or not, I'm not a very good shot. Well, with my deer stuff, I'm pretty accomplished. But shotgun is a whole different level. But I ain't afraid to shoot them. And most of them fly away. But I tell you what, me and Ted have a good time out there chasing after those birds. And Ted's actually a good shot. And he's got his dogs, Cassie and Tula, trained up. So it's awesome to watch those dogs work and hunt with dogs, because I've just never had the chance to. Our dogs, they're chocolate labs, silver labs and all that, but they're city slickers. Ted's dog is trained, and she is awesome to watch. And you can just sit behind that bush, stay in the shade, and let that dog go do what it loves to do, bring that bird back.
Hey, this is Adam Carolla from The Adam Carolla Show. Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your football betting action. Bet Online has more ways to get in and stay in on action, with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From every NFL and college game to MLB, UFC, and NHL, futures as well. BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering info. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. In between games, head over to BetOnline's casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline. The game starts here.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Rick and Morton, what's happening? Let's talk about the school of Morton.
That's why I sent that picture of you with my shirt on, man. That was made right there in the school of Morton.
Yeah, you sent me this picture. You got the beautiful Bobby Eaton shirt in there. Tell me where I can order one of those shirts, because I'm going to buy one. I'm such a big Bobby Eaton fan. It's unbelievable.
You know what? If you go on my School of Morton Facebook, I have it advertised down in one of the columns there, Steve. I don't know. I seen Bobby out in Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, and I picked it up from him out there. But if you do that for me, just get anybody out there, you or anybody, just scroll down my School of Morton, and you'll see the advertisement for the Bobby Eaton T-shirt. Matter of fact, it's where I got a picture of the Bobby shirt on the comments. The guy posted it where you could order one at it. But, man, you asked me about the School of Morton. I'm located down in Chuckey, Tennessee, right outside of Greenville, Tennessee.
How did you end up in Chuckey?
Man, you know what? You see the movie The Field of Dreams?
Yep.
You build it, and they come. and it was like that. I wanted to tell you the truth, Steve. I'm just not kidding with you. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Chuckey's a little bitty town. There's nothing there. Big cities, man, you overhead. I couldn't afford it. And I went down there, and I opened up a school there, and it's a little bitty. And as it went on, I got more people, and I expanded it, made it bigger. And I know, if you notice in the picture I sent you, you see two of my rings in the background of that picture at my school. Then I have another one in the back, and I have a dungeon that's dedicated to Stu Hart. I don't never go down there, though. No, I'm just kidding. But I leave that for other people. But, man, it's there, Steve. And I ain't trying to, because you got a lot of the guys out there that have wrestling schools, and they're all good. But, in that area, in that certain part of the country where I'm at in East Tennessee, it's what we got. And we learned hard. I encourage a lot of the guys, especially, because, in our younger days, we wrestled every night. Nowadays, these guys are lucky to wrestle once a week or every 2 weeks. And it's just like, even though we're in the entertainment business, man, we're professional athletes. You got to train like they are. And that's at the school. I'd much rather get in the ring with a guy that is not that's got a little experience by just going to wrestling schools than not at all. So that's where I'm at, down there in Chuckey, Tennessee. A great location, man. It's just, it's not hard to find. It's not but 2 buildings in Chuckey, Tennessee, and one of them is the School of Morton.
Well, talk to me about them rings you got, because, I've heard so many of my guys that come on my show, they started backyard wrestling. They'd build their own rings. Are those 16 or 18 footers?
Mine are 16 foot. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a plug. A guy named, you might know him, Mike Samples, up in Kentucky. Do you remember Mike?
Yeah, I remember the name.
Yeah, see, but Mike, he makes all the, the cages and stuff for UFC.
Oh,
and he makes rings too. And Mike, was a buddy of mine, and I was needing a ring. My ring I had was homemade. I'm just telling you the truth. It was 14 by 14. The ropes wasn't like, and I needed a good ring, and I got a hold of Mike. Man, he helped me out. But since then my school's grown, and I've, and every time I make at my school, I put back into my school too. I really do. It's not that I make a killing off of it. I don't.
What does a ring cost these days, Ricky?
Man, a good one costs you $4,500, Steve. That's and to somebody like me, that's a lot of money. So, but what I do is I get that. I got 2 of them now, and Mike let me pay for them a little at a time, and I paid for them, and he did. I got them all. I got everything paid off, and did that. And now, we're just working on. Then we start putting our money back into cameras. For the teach you guys. I wasn't one of the best talkers in the world, but I got my point across. But and a lot of my boys, I teach them. Instead of going into the ring, looking at the arm pad, high spot number 1 or high spot number 2, I try to teach them about how to start a match off, how to talk, how to boost, but how to do a lot of things different. My first one is learning how to talk, man. How to, try to teach them that magic when you walk out that door, how you capture everybody in that building. And I do good, Steve, every month. Matter of fact, this coming Sunday, which I'm in Charlotte Friday and Saturday for the Fan Fest, but this I do a roast on Ole Anderson that Sunday morning, to jump in my car and come back, because once a month, at the first of the month, I run a little show at my school for my boys to have. And actually we do pretty good. We pack that little place in there with with their family, the mothers and the brothers and cousins and their friends. We have a good time, Steve, and they learn and they listen from me.
Well, talk to me about how many students you got in the school right now. And dude, just straight up, what does it cost to get into the School of Morton? How do you go by that? Is that a 6-month course? Is it month by month? How do you break that down?
Well, we train on Tuesdays and Sundays, and that's if you come on Sunday, it's $20. If you come on Tuesday, it's $20, but if you come on Sunday, it only costs $10. You see, it's 2 times. It's $250 down. And I don't. We're over here in Tennessee. We don't have the big companies that people work, but they come though. I have guys that come from up in Kentucky, Virginia. Some of them, I had a couple of them that moved over to Chuckey, Tennessee to go to my school. It's reasonable, Steve. I don't. I try to fulfill, and not only that, I have kids at my school. I have one kid at my school, man, that's been in St. Jude's Hospital for 8 years. And then I had another one there that's got MS. But you got to understand, man, they got dreams too. And even if it don't go no further in my school, man, it's their dream. I'll make it happen for them too. Only thing you got to deal with kids like that. And people out there, and I'm not holding down from you. When you got kids like that, they come in there and they've been petted all their life. You understand me? Their grandmothers and their granddaddies and their uncle give them everything they want. Then they bring them in there to me. And buddy, some of them kids are just meaner than hell. They get everything. They get everything they want. But then I make them realize, dude. And that's what I was telling you earlier about my son. I teach you how to say yes or no, sir. Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and make them understand. A yes, sir, and a no, ma'am, and a yes, ma'am will get you real far in life. It will.
It will. It will. Just how you present yourself.
Right. Yes, a little bit of manners and stuff. We teach that down there. I don't have the answers to everything, Steve.
So how do you start these guys off? I mean, are you starting off? I mean, I'm going back to my days in Chris Adams' school. I
take them back there to back in Little Ring. First of all, I teach them. You know, and you always have your one that comes into the gym that's thinks he's real tough and real bad. But I'm going off. I'm coming back to what you're saying too. You know, and they come in the door. Hey, I want to be one of you wrestlers. I said, really? I said, roll in that ring right there and hit them ropes 20 times, 10 times each side. You know what I'm talking about,
yep.
Steve. Yeah, look here. They roll out of the ring. They start making that excuse. Hey, my wife, she's calling me. And look here, they're limping towards that door. But, you know, it's anything. That ring's dangerous. How I start them off is, you know, first I got to get them in shape. I don't go out there and blow you up. But if you don't get them in shape, they're going to get hurt. You know, you got to be in shape to take a back bump. You got to be in shape to hit a turnbuckle real hard. And you really got to be in shape to hit them ropes hard. And that's what I teach them off. I start them off slow, but I get their calisthenics going because it'll help them out. And then we move on from there. And every time, even the guys that's been there, I had a couple of guys, Chase Owens, and you know, he's real big in Japan in the Bullet Club and stuff. He's one of my boys, Kid Cash. A lot of guys I trained in the ring, you know, like back then because we wrestled every night. You know, if they bring a guy in, they want him over, and then Robert will work with them. That was whatever territory we went to. But you got to get them in shape.
But when you're starting these things off, it's not like you're just trying to get them basically in shape to be able to have a match, to be able to go through the moves and stuff like that. Because back in the old days, I mean, you'd get guys, you know, those hardcore guys from the old school, they just grind the hell out of you just to get you to quit, just to see if you can weather the storm. But these days, I think it's changed a little bit because, I mean, if you're going to run everybody off, you ain't going to have no customers.
Okay, now that's my whole thing right there. You know, and I just tell them all when you come in there. You know, I have some guys that come in off the independent circuit wanting to learn a little bit more. You know, and you know when you come in, don't impress me. You know, I done seen everything. You know, if you don't impress me, eat apple, shit, a fruit salad. That would impress me. The rest of it, I done seen. But see, what the guys don't know, Steve, and this is the greatest thing in the world, they don't know the basics. And I'm telling you, they do not know the basics of professional wrestling.
Okay, so what would you call the basics?
Oh, yeah. Just lock up, grab a headlock, shoot you off, tackle, drop down, get it again, reverse hip toss. I mean, I don't know. And plus, another thing, they got another language, too.
Right.
But they don't. A lot of guys, they do not know. Next time you work with the guy, get in the ring with him, tell him 1-2.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking?
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But it's the basics. And just know how to work the crowd.
But before you get to working the crowd, are you doing like tumbling drills, learn how to take a flat back bump, slap it at mat?
You know, I have warm ups, Steve. You know, it's the warm up drills. You know, you start off with the left arm forward row, and when people don't understand the left arm forward row, you learn how to do that. Learn how to take an arm drag. You understand what I'm saying? You lead off with your left arm. Then I do that. Then you do the forward rows, the back rows up onto your feet. Take a back bump, get up, hit the rope. You know, you have another guy in there. You drop down, come back, come off, reverse. You know, just get your timing because the match is based off timing. And get your timing together. I do all that. No, I don't bring them in there and make them do 700 free squats before they get in the ring. I don't do none of that bull crap.
Hey, talk to me about the arm drag, Ricky, because the arm drag, and out of all the things, and you might be rolling your eyes over there, but the arm drag is almost a lost art because, you know, you don't just go out there and just throw your arm out just because, hey, I want you to arm drag me, and you go back to watch Adrian Adonis. He was a lefty anyway, so it would look like he was throwing a punch or going for an offensive move to feed into that arm drag. Or if a guy's naturally hitting the ropes and he's in motion, well, then because he's running towards you, it facilitates an arm drag. But, you know, some days, I mean, when you're talking about teaching the basics, sometimes I'll watch some of these guys just go in there and take, one tackle, 2 drop downs, you know, a couple of arm drags. It's like, Jesus Christ, I can see this coming from a mile away. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not fooling me.
I got you on that right there.
Yeah.
But, you know, but see, when you're starting off with these guys, Steve, you have to do it that way. Now, if you get into a match, you know, normal like I do, you know, you do things like you were saying. you just don't shoot a guy off and give him he comes off the rope. Or I never did that anyway. Matter of fact, I gave 3 different kind of arm drags. You understand what I'm saying? It's a lot of guys can do that. I can, I usually start off with the left one, then I can do the right arm drag. I can come out of the hip toss into an arm drag. All kinds of stuff, but that's when you get later on and when you learn how to work.
How do you go about teaching a working punch, Ricky? Because you always had a damn good punch. You just felt good and it looked good.
Well, when you get bigger, I make them understand, because nowadays these guys in this slapping syndrome, chopping and shit.
Sound effects.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the only time they get a pop. But throwing a punch, especially at my school, I don't even allow them to throw a punch, not to the face anyway.
Right.
Because I'm from those two. I mean, if you notice, Steve, and in my days, and I teach these guys, nowadays the guys go to the ring, they got their fist balled up, and I'm telling them, I said, what do you get your fist balled up for the guy for? You're in a wrestling match. I mean, what do you want to hit him in the mouth for? And they do that. Not long ago, I worked with D'Lo Brown a couple of years ago in the match, Steve, and same thing. And I'm not getting off what you asked me, but I'm in the ring with him, and I asked him, I said, D'Lo, what do you want me to sell, the first punch or the 47th one? I mean, I don't know which one to sell.
Yeah.
You done hit me 47 times. But, I'm telling them, Jesus Christ, but at my school, I don't even let them throw punches. That's until you get into the angle, and I shoot little angles in there. But I teach the forearms. I teach, the forearms across the back, across the chest. And then we finally work it in. Learn how to throw a punch is something you got to do on your own. It's something that you got to master in your own way. Because I hate, and I tell guys, if you can't throw a good punch, don't even throw one at all. And that's what I meant by that. I don't let them, but after you've been in the ring for a while working with the guys, I get up there and teach them, how to throw that punch. And another thing, too, it's the guy that's selling it. If the guy knows how to sling his head back, it looks like, man, your punches look so great. And that was good. Me, I used to have my head down, have that long hair, and, boy, they hit me with the punch, and I sling that head back, my hair go way up. It looked cool. It takes two to throw a punch.
One of the things that I always liked about your work, I mean, your whole body work, just in general, but man, when you talk about the good sellers in the business, your name automatically comes up, Steamboat's name automatically comes up, and then you go down the line. So obviously you place a very high importance on the art of selling, because you've got to tell this story. I guess it was one of the countless times you was working with Arn and Ole. And I guess you and Ole were punching each other. I don't know if we talked about this on the last podcast, but what happened? Do you remember that story where you just took a bump?
Yeah, I remember that story. It was, Ole never liked small guys. And Steve, in my day, I was a small wrestler at the time. I weighed about 175 pounds. But I had that fire in me. And we shot we done had our run with the Midnight Express and everything, and then we shot that angle with the Four Horsemen, and they just brought Ole in, and Ole the whole time, and Ole, that's what I respect about Ole. He tells you how he feels. He don't hold no punches. What I'm saying? This, and he don't like nobody. He don't even like ice cream. This son of a gun. So he, and we shoot this angle, but then we go into Hampton, Virginia, and in our days, Steve, we had to sell the buildings out every week or every 2 weeks. That's what we did. Right. If you didn't, and God, we got these people going. This place, Hampton's packed, and boy, them people were bummed. And they just did a thing where they rubbed my face on the mat, on the concrete, and I got the new skin and all that stuff on there. And before I hit the ring, and I go with Ole, and Ole, he's trying to blow me up. That's what he tried to do. He was trying to blow me up, but it's not my first rodeo. So I got him in the corner, and I done hit him 700 times, and he hadn't took a bump yet. So I just stopped, and I looked at him. I walked right to the middle of the ring, and I took a big old bump. I just took a bump. And he looked at me, and if you can, I'm just going to tell you exactly what Ole told me, so if you have to beat this out, beat it out. I mean, he asked me, he says, what the f*** are you doing? I said, well, hell, you didn't take a bump. I thought I would. I mean, and then he looked at me real funny because he called on. He says, man, I don't know where to whoop your ass and shake your hands, and you got more balls than a Brahma bull. But you know what, Steve? After that, dude, I hit him with one punch, hit fly, because understand me, he come back, he couldn't. Then finally he come and told me, he said, that Ricky, we shot this angle with you. He says, I just never believed in little guys. He said, but heck, I made more money on this run with you than I ever. And he's serious. He said, I've made more money on this run with you than I ever made in my life. And that's a great compliment. So
yeah, that's awesome. But
yeah, I did that.
Let me ask you a question. Because, man, when I go back, people always ask, if I'm talking wrestling, my favorite era was that mid-'80s stuff. I love the stuff that Bill Watson, them guys were doing Mid-South and Power Pro, NWA, man, and you guys running, and you and Robert, and y'all either feud with the Horsemen or was it the Midnights? So as a white meat babyface, you and Robert,
I've seen that somewhere before.
Yeah. Was there, I mean, who did y'all, I mean, I know you love to work with both teams, but, man, I'm such a fan of Ole and Arn. And then Arn and Tully, I like them too, but I liked Ole and Arn combination. And, of course, I loved, Beautiful Bobby and Stan.
Yeah.
But Loverboy Dennis Condrey. So what was your favorite mix to work with out of both those tag teams? And what did you think was different about each one of them?
Well, Steve, and it's a question that asked to me, and I don't really know how to answer this question, because you got to, and to me, and that's I tell guys, what makes a good baby face is that you can work with anybody. Now, what makes a good baby face? See, the heel never changes his gimmick. He only works at. A lot of guys only work their style, and if you can adjust to their style. Now, with the Midnight Express, it was the deal with Jimmy Cornette. They wasn't the big, tough, badass team. They were the ones that when you did the babyface and heel gimmick, that they could never get nothing right. He always outsmarted them. Then it had Jimmy Cornette to come in and screw us in the match. Yeah. And and that's what boom. But then when you got in there with Ole and Arn, here's Ole Anderson, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, the big baddest son of a gun in the world. I'm Leroy Brown. He's what I'm trying to say, real bad. And Arn Anderson, they're real tough guys, and you've got to understand. You got to change your thing. And you see, them. What got me over, Steve, is like you were saying earlier, was selling. When you start to sell, man, and the whole match. I mean, look at some of these matches where Ole and Arn would take that one body part. Yep. And just work on it and pound me and pound me and pound me. But I never died. And I kept coming up, and I'd make those little slurs. But see, that was the difference in between all of them. To me, and I can't pick one. I loved them all. Yeah. Every one of them. Especially when I was younger working with Dennis Conrad, because Dennis taught me a lot in the ring. But then when Dennis left and Stan Lane come in, Stan filled those shoes just like that, because he was a good-looking, great body heel that fit right in the mode with Bobby Eaton and Jimmy Cornette. Sweet Stan Lane, and beautiful Bobby Eaton. Just that name, the Express, this is the Express. But a lot of them worked out like that right there. It was I think, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or saying I had to, but it was me adjusting myself to these guys, because every one of them were great workers. All of them were, and I couldn't pick none of them because we drew money with all of them.
Oh, I know, but when you said Loverboy Dennis Condrey taught you stuff, now when you started working with them, and you were already a veteran, I'm assuming. So what particular did he teach you?
Well, see, he taught me that. You see, I was not really. I first got my first break for Bill Watts. That's when I really got my first break, and they put me into the Rock and Roll Express again. That's with Dennis and Bobby. He taught me the things about selling. It's hard. That's what I'm trying to say is, he in the ring. Ricky, sell it this way, or Ricky, do this right here when I throw you to the floor this time. And, about Jimmy, how important not touching the manager was. He said if you touch Jimmy Cornette, you'll take heat off of us.
Right.
And he was right. Everything he told me was right. And it was little things like that. You know, no matter who you are, when you get a seasoned veteran like Dennis, and, you know, he teaches you a lot of things in the ring, that just little things that mean more than any big thing ever could. And then, you know, but when Dennis left and Stan stepped in there, see, Stan was there. And see, I took the selling that I had from, you know, learning from Dennis to put it in a match with Sweet Stan. And it all came together, Steve.
Okay, I got two questions for you. Number one, have you seen the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary yet? And number two, have you started the DDP yoga program? Well, if the answer to both of those is no, then let me tell you about a great deal that my buddy Diamond Dallas Page is offering just to you. 20% off anything you purchase at ddpyoga.com/Austin. 20% off the DDP Yoga program. 20% off the collector's edition DVD and Blu-ray of the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary. DDP Yoga literally saved Jake's life, and you can see that incredible story when you check out the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary that Diamond Dallas Page and his crew put together. What was your worst injury in the ring, Ricky? Because, I mean, you had a long career. You're still in the ring. You're 60 years old. You're wrestling a couple nights a week. And earlier when we were just talking on the phone, I called you out of the blue just to say hello. And I said, hey, I'm going to call this guy, talk to him about his wrestling school. What was the worst injury you ever got in the ring? Because, man, when I look at your style, and I just preach this to a lot of these young kids that are trying to get into business these days. Everybody kind of wants to work out suicide style, that cruiserweight style. And with all due respect to cruiserweights, Ricky, you weren't the biggest guy in the world. You said you were $175, but you always worked pro style. Yeah. You know, working a body part. Yeah. You know, your basic high spots. It's the same thing I did in a more violent fashion, and I was, you know, kind of a different kind of baby face than you were after becoming. You know, I went through my heel phase, but. What was your worst injury? Because you know what, like you was in good shape.
And listen to what I'm saying, because I'm driving around. I'm gonna get my wife to pull over. I'm gonna run out here and knock on this wooden wall over here right quick. But no, I hope you got that. But no, I'm saying, Steve, really, I never had the really, really major injuries. I had the ones that were just like all the other boys have. You know, the twisted ankles. You know, I broke my arm before. But it was nothing really. I never had no major surgery. I never had that. See, you asked me earlier about how's my body feel. But you see, I'm still, I guess it makes me still young, doing it at my school and still working. But I imagine, Steve, if I quit, I don't know. I don't know if I could walk after I quit and settle down for a while. But I've never really had no major injuries like that. But just another thing you were saying that made me catch your eye. See, our business, you got to change with our business too. And me, and I watched some of the stuff. See, our days, we always took care of each other in the ring because we depended on each other. We didn't have contracts. But see, nowadays, the people pay to see their money to watch you get hurt. And the guys work like that too. I mean, I don't know if you noticed that or not. They, you know, they're high risk. To me, it seems like they are, you know, because you read a lot of them. They're injured. So, I mean, they take a lot more, I guess, a lot more risk of doing things. And the guys, you know, we was talking earlier with Ole and Art, and they knew how to take care of you. Bobby Eaton was one of the greatest, you know, at catching you and doing things so that when you landed, you didn't get hurt. So I don't know. I mean, I never, and to answer your question, you know, I'm like everybody else. I got the chips in the elbows. I have the, you know, the sore back and sore knees sometimes, bad ankles. But other than that, Steve, that's about it.
But what are you teaching? Are you teaching the style that you worked as an in-ring performer? Are you teaching today's style that you would find on maybe a WWE? Because, and I'm not gonna. This is not a knock. I'm just saying, guys are working so hard and so fast. In your opinion, what do you think draws money? Is it harder, faster action, or more compelling storylines? Or a babyface that you love and a heel that you hate, because some things are done so fast these days. It's like, man, if nothing's hurting, I really can't, you know. And I'm one of the boys, but so I give the guys credit for being better athletes than we were back in the day. But at some point, man, you can only go so fast, and I think there's diminishing returns by going too fast.
Well, I tried, and see and understand me, Steve. Being in this business, you you got to go with the flow. You got to know what's happening in every direction. This is what I try to teach them here. It's about learning our business, because there's sometimes that you're going to have to work fast. There's sometimes that you're going to work slow. Now, on the independent circuit that I'm out here on,
right,
I try to tell the guys a lot. I said, man, listen, you had a great match, but the people didn't see half of it because you went so fast. And really, Steve, if you stop and think, and I get these guys to do this all the time. I said, after your match, I want you to go out there and find somebody that you don't know, and you ask them, did you watch my match? And then they're going to tell you they did, and you come back and tell me what they said. And the answer to that question is, Steve, all they remember is the finish.
Right.
And you have to watch the match. And I told the guys to watch the match too, because everybody, other night I was going to, believe it or not, I was going to do a dive over the top rope. And I went out and I was watching a couple of matches. Well, hell, they did a dive 14 times in that one match. I said, well, I can't do that tonight. But if he just slow down, I said, by the time the guy turns around and asks the guy beside you, what do you do? Oh, you done did 2 more spots. So just slow down. The people were watching you, man. And that's what I try to make them understand. It's like you're on stage. I mean, you got to when you talk, the people's got to understand what you're saying. And the simpler, to me, the whole thing, you have the time when you want to get the heat. If you're coming back in 2 weeks at the show, some of these independent shows run every week. I go in and do a little deal where the heel, gives me the gimmick, and I cut the interview and come back in a couple of weeks. All of it works. It's according on the situation that you're in, Steve, because there's still the old school wrestling out here. There's the new school wrestling out here. I don't say it's, I just call it the right way. That's the only way I put it and try to teach it. I teach all of it, though, because I have kids that go to Japan, and from my school, they come back more than, you know how it is when you come back from Japan. You're wide open, full of piss and vinegar, and bam, you don't sell nothing, you hurt nothing until you get back into the groove of being back here in the States.
So what are you telling these kids when you train them in your school these days? I mean, because back in the day, in the phone call that we were having before we started recording, we were talking about the good old days and working in Nashville at the fairgrounds where Frank Morrell, hell, I'd be over there in the babyface corner. I was working with maybe Superstar was running heel that day. I don't know. And, give me the finish, give Bill the finish. And I'd go out there and listen, and we'd have the match. And a lot of times you were saying you'd be going to the ring, and one of the greatest referees of all time, Tommy Young, would be giving you the finish. And so you didn't find the finish out there. You might even be in the ring getting the finish.
Well, you see, Steve, when you started there in Nashville, but see, like for Bill Watts, it was very seldom that you ever shared a dressing room with heels. It would never was. You're always on the other side of the building. And then, and I remember first when like TBS started coming, then the internet started coming in, the kayfabe sheets coming in. Whether, everybody tried to kayfabe. They was trying to beat Dave Meltzer stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So instead of anybody knowing what your finish was, they didn't tell you till you went to the ring.
Yeah.
But that was a difference. It was a difference in time. I mean, I did several out on broadways with Ric Flair. I didn't even see him till he got in the ring. Right. As a matter of fact, every night that I done it, the only time I ever saw him was in the ring. People thought that nowadays, which we are, me and Bobby, like me, Bobby, and Tommy Rich, and guys like that. So we all grew up together in this business. And they used to tell me about us hanging around. I said, yeah, but I had to wait till Bobby turned babyface before I hung out with him. I mean, you never seen us together in a bar. You never seen us together at the house, especially Bill Watts. God, man, if you didn't kayfabe, dude, you couldn't even call him on the phone. And he'd fine your butt for that. So, but, it's just a difference in times, Steve. All of them are great. I have great memories. You had long territories at the time. You drove them. But, I wouldn't change it for nothing. No, man, I love this business.
Hey, you're talking about working with Ric Flair. And, Flair was, as a singles guy, he's probably my favorite world champion of all. and it was a huge influence on my career. It wasn't until I got dropped on my head I kind of had to modify my style. So it's probably, and I hate to say this, but it was probably a good thing I got dropped on my head to change my style, because no one can be Ric Flair. Ric Flair was Ric Flair, and I changed into that brawling pro style that I adopted. But in his prime, and I worked with him a few times, once or twice in WWE, but that was in a different era. How was he in the ring, just coming in, and all you guys know is a finish, and you're listening? Because you know he's coming.
Well, you see, because, Ric Flair wasn't a world champion for nothing.
Ric Flair, right.
Yeah, he wasn't that. Somebody just give that to him, buddy. He was Ric Flair. And before I even wrestled Ric Flair, he done watched my matches and knew every move that I done. And when I went to the ring with our Broadway, I didn't know. We went to the ring, and he knew everything that I done, Steve. And he put it all during the match. It's time, like things. You can't teach this to kids either.
Right.
They have some things you got to learn on your own about when this happens. And Rick could do that. I used to do a spot where, he'll give me a tackle. I'd go down, I'd leapfrog him, then hip toss, and then say, I call it a front head scissors, a hurricane Corona, off the shoulders. I mean, he knew all that. He run I got in the ring with him. He knew all that. And another thing that Rick did, Rick was over, especially like in Philadelphia. And I remember Rick and I were supposed to go on our Broadway in Philadelphia. Boy, what a hill town that is. Yeah. But they, and we got out there, and buddy, I mean, the first 10 minutes of that match, they were tearing my ass up. But Rick, about 20 minutes in the match, dude, I mean, this is a work of art to watch this. This is how you learn, and this is what people don't understand, that you got to be there to see this. You got to be there to learn this chemistry. Dude, he took Philadelphia, in 20 minutes, he turned them people together. Look here. They pushed the guardrails all the way to the ring. Arn Anderson come down because they was trying to come in the ring. Then here come Robert down there. And then next thing you know, they're coming up on the rail. And Rick just grabbed me. He said, he threw me off the top rope. He said, man, we got to go home. They're going to kill me. You see, now that's a good, buddy. Can you imagine that? And nowadays, it seems like everybody, instead of being a business, they trying to get over better than the other person. That's just my own personal opinion, Steve. You're trying to draw money, but the heel don't want to look. He wants to look better than the baby face. And sometimes I see this, and it really does happen. But when you get a guy like Ric Flair that knows the chemistry of our business, and knows this magic, and he knows how to tell that story and start painting that picture, buddy, the limits, there's no limit to what he could do in the ring in his prime. And, buddy, I was there. Now, I experienced it. I wrestled him. If you ever talked to Rick, him did 17 hours straight in a row every night. That's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then when that was over, we went 6 hour-and-a-half matches. And that's, but if you don't learn how to work then, you need to quit the business.
There was a couple of high-profile guys that he worked with that, man, I always think, man, these guys are working years straight with Ric Flair, and they didn't really pick it up. And you're learning from one of the best. And the thing I liked about Rick was he always knew, when to take a powder, when to hit the gas pedal. That dude was so in tune with the crowd. He was just two big ears out there listening to the crowd, and he worked them. He worked them to death. And like you said, if you can change Philly, and if they're giving you a hard time and 20 minutes in they want to kill him, he just had a way to read a crowd, and he knew when to hit the gas pedal in the match, come back, get some heat, start that preliminary heat, little comeback, and then grind you down to go for that patented leg work and to try to set up for the figure four. A lot of people say, you've seen one Ric Flair match, you've seen them all. BS.
That's bull crap. That's bull crap.
Each and every single match is a different match, but the guy was just a master to me of timing and psychology and listening to a crowd.
Yes, and besides, and put them all together, and I'm sorry, this is just the way I feel. Ric Flair was the real world heavyweight champion of our business. He did it that way, and plus his interviews, and all the fans out there are listening, when he told you he wore a $3,000 suit, he had a $3,000 suit on. When he told you he had $800 pair of shoes on, he had $800 pair of shoes on. Limousine flying. Limousine flying was me. Jet flying, limousine riding. All that was true. And Rick, he lived this gimmick. He was the nature boy, Ric Flair. And to me, I've seen a lot of guys that try to go out there and work, but see, they try to. And see, that's what makes it. To me, I was talking to you about earlier, Steve. I don't have the answers to everything, but as a babyface can change his way to work with a heel. That's Ric Flair. You got to work. Ric Flair don't have one certain style, but if you try to buck him in the ring, your match is going to suck. You know what I'm saying? He's going to make you suck for one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's going to make you suck. But I had a great run with Ricky. I had
See, one of the things I loved about Flair was, going to his promos, just throwing everything in your face that the shoes he's wearing probably cost more than your house. All that just, it was damn near a shoot to him. It was a shoot to him. He was in character 24/7. But you said earlier, I'll take you back, you said maybe you didn't think your promos were the greatest. What I liked about your promo, Ricky, was because every time you said something, you meant it. And a lot of times this is coming on the heels of maybe taking an ass whipping, as those heels were getting some heat on you and Robert. But you and Hoot. But so you had emotion, and it was like you weren't out there trying to say E equals MC squared like a scientist. It was about, hey, you did this once, you got away, but it ain't gonna happen again. Or there was revenge, there was vengeance, there was meaning behind what you were saying. So you can go out there and you can. Anybody can talk for 5 minutes, but if there's not any anger, emotion, or salt and pepper in your language or in your cadence or how you deliver it, hey man, to me, the promo is either effective or ineffective. You got to make those people feel what you're feeling. It's like it's like that old song, Mister, can you make folks cry when you play and sing? Because if you're Big Star Bound, it's a long, hard ride. And so, but to me, you were able to get emotions out of people through the fire you had, through the selling you did, and you knew that, God dang it, you guys were in pain or you're trying to get the belts back. And that's why I just gravitated to you on every level, because I believed in the work, I believed in the man, I believed that when you opened your mouth, you was going to do what you said you was going to do.
Well, cool, see, that's a great compliment coming from you. And you see, that's another thing we go back to selling. I could cry, and you hear me? And boy, I get to crying, and I'd watch. We was in the era with the young girls, man, they'd be crying, and if I'd shoot an angle and get hurt, like my arm, I have my arm wrapped up. I look out there at all the fans, I have their arm wrapped up, because it was a different era, and they believe. But see, one thing I never did on my interviews is I never went out there. It's being a baby face and told the heel that I'm going to jerk your head off and doo-doo down your neck. I never told them that I was going to do this to you. I always told them that I'm going to come out and give you the best that I got.
Right.
Because it's a different time. But I was a small baby face. I couldn't go out there and promise the people that I was going to beat Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight title, and it wasn't going to happen. See, that's another way that the business changed, and that's the things. I'm not going to say that. I learned that from Dusty. Then the match that you knew. But see, you didn't know. See, because you didn't know your finishes back then. It's like Flair and I, I didn't know we were going, some nights, we went like those 17-hour Broadway matches. But you had to wait to that night before you went to the ring to get that finish. It's the same thing. So you didn't, your interviews were based off of, you really didn't know what was happening. So I couldn't promise to people something that I couldn't fulfill myself doing. That's the way I felt about it.
Hey, man, let me shift gears for a minute. I was talking to someone the other day, and Magnum TA's name came up. And, of course, I remember when Magnum first came out, and, man, good-looking guy, pretty good worker. He just had that good fire. He had that grit. And good-looking guy, and I just figured he was going to be one of the next big singles wrestlers that there was, really giving him push. Some of the classic matches that he would have. And then you had that wreck. Were you in that territory at the time, or were you down in Oklahoma?
No, buddy, I was there. We were, we had a great thing doing it. We had a great crew inside there. Matter of fact, I was with Magnum right before he had his wreck. We was all at Bennigan's. He was in his Porsche. He left to go home. He had a wreck on the way home. It broke his neck. Magnum was a big guy. I mean, good-looking kid, and with the body and his gimmick, the biker sort of clean-cut, bad biker. To me, his gimmick was, and he was going to have that great run, Yeah,
because he was like a guy that, of course, he's so good looking, all the chicks loved him, but he was so rugged, all the guys wanted to be like him or to have a beer with him. So I mean, sometimes you'll get the reverse of that. Sometimes, the chicks, the guys just won't like a guy because he's too good looking. All the chicks love him, but Magnum had that universal appeal. Everybody loved him because he was basically real. So, what was your thoughts when he had that damn wreck? Because, man, it tore me apart because I just figured he's going to be the next big superstar out of the business. And, he had to luckily he came out as good as he did and was able to still live a quality life. But
Steve, he was, they were grooming him for that. You see, and that's the reason I went into an angle with Flair. Because I think that was going to be Magnum. You hear me?
Yeah.
They were grooming him for that. Yeah, and he got ready for that. And, man, it's sad. I'm not saying this in a bad way. And I'm not. And I hope that everybody that's listening to this, they understand what I'm saying. But, it's one of those things that you say, what if, Steve? And, what if is a big word right now.
Yeah.
That what I'm talking about. And what if? And Magnum's listening to this. I don't mean this bad. I love you. You're my buddy. You're my friend. You're one of the boys. But if it didn't happen, Steve, he'd have been one of the biggest stars this business, I think, would ever know. To me, because because buddy, he was there. He was that rough and tough guy you was talking about, and that good-looking guy, and he could hold his own. You understand me? I think they were grooming him to hold that title for a while. To have that good long run like Steamboat and Flair did for the NWA title. Steamboat and Flair had that run over there in the Carolinas for years. Mm-hmm. And same thing like we did in tag teams and other thing. But Magnum, that they were, I can't tell you the limit that he would have went to. I really couldn't. Because I'm going back to the same thing, what if?
Right.
And everything. But that's cool, Steve.
Before you go.
Yes. Yeah.
Just one last question. I was talking with someone earlier about getting over. What, in your opinion, is the hell? I think it was you and me talking about getting over. What is your key, or what was your secret to getting over? Is it a fluke? Is it a chance? Is it luck? What's your take on getting over?
My take on getting over. Well, the first thing is, and this is not even about it's being at the right place at the right time. But the only thing that gets over, and you look at everybody in this business that got over, even you done it, Steve. And that's knowing how to sell. Okay, knowing how to sell in the business, that's what keeps the people's interest. And all your great stars, you look at them, each and every one of them knew how to sell. And if you can make, like you said from David Allen Cole a while ago, if you want to make, if you're big star bound, if you make people feel what you feel inside, and that's what you really got to do. That's learning that magic of the business. The people out there that's watching you in that match. But to me, the greatest thing that ever got me over it, and when I go, especially back then, the guys want to come in with any kind of hot spots you want to do. I said, I don't do hot spots. I sell. And I don't die. And I keep fighting you and fighting you and fighting you too. You have to cheat to beat me because I never give up. I wasn't like a fish out of the water just flopping around. When I sold something, I sold it for what you did to me. If you gave me a gut shot, I didn't do a forward flip. You ever notice that happen a lot of times? Okay, when you gave me something, I sold it like you really gave it to me. You know, if you punch me in the mouth, you know, I'm going to sell that punch in the mouth. I never forget the first time I wrestled Brian Armstrong on Memphis TV. You know, he was coming in Road Dogg, and I locked up with him. He told me, "Come around, give me a punch," and he gave me a punch. But I sold it like he really gave me. Well, he really thought he hit me. And we're on TV, and he's standing there going, "I don't know what to do. I hurt you." You know, I almost started laughing. You hear me? But that's just the way it was then. To me, I think the key is just selling, Steve, making the people believe what you believe inside. That's what really. If you believe in yourself, you get yourself over. You know, that's the one thing you got to do. It's just and it's great. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Hey.
You my man, buddy. I ain't kidding you. Hey, Steve, and I told you earlier, and I meant that from my heart. And really in our business, you're one of the last ones to ever really get over. To me, you're one of the greatest credits this business ever had. And that's compliment, and take that for a compliment, and that's from my heart.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
you know, Steve, and when you were hot, I could go anywhere in the world. And I'd go anywhere in the world, and I'd see somebody with a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt.
You know what? It was a deal where, you know, I was at the right place at the right time, and then there's some lucky breaks that figured in. But I did believe in myself, to your point. But I wasn't. Hey,
I'm going to ask you something here, and I know we're live on the podcast here, and I'm one of the old boys from school, and I don't want a handout. But if you ever talk to any people, you know, things that Robert and I never got. We never got an action figure, not even one. If you ever talk to people like that, give us a plug sometimes, would you?
I'll do that.
It would change our life, and I'd like to go help train some of the boys, you know, and I could, you know, if I ever need help doing that, because now you see they're bringing tag team wrestling back. And I know a little bit about that. Okay. but I'm just saying that. I'm not asking for a handout.
No, I got you. But if I
love my business.
If I don't see you guys with the Midnight Express in the Hall of Fame one of these days real shortly, I'm going to riot. But, dude,
hey, man, thank you. That's a great compliment, buddy. You know, that's a great.
You know, those battles that y'all have with the Midnights and with the Rocket, I mean, with Ole and Arn or Arn and Tully.
Yeah, buddy.
But that does that stuff, and I just, like I said,
hey, all them are, but we're not.
That's the dude. Okay. But it's like we were saying earlier on the phone. That's when wrestling was real, and I bought in hook, line, and sinker. I knew something was up. But no, dude, I was hook, line, and sinker. So I appreciate all the memories. I know you got to go take your kid to acting school. It's the School of Morton. He's down there in Chuckey, Tennessee, and you get on his Facebook page. If you're down there, if you're looking for a school, Ricky said earlier, there's a lot of good schools out there, but they're not all good schools out there. So you got to be picky. I know Lance Storm runs a tight ship. I know.
Oh, yes, he does. Ricky
Morton,
school.
Ricky Morton, one of the greatest workers in the history of the business. So if you're down there in that area, you can't do no better than Ricky Morton.
Yeah, Steve. Thank you very much, buddy.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up his podcast and ride off into the sunset. But before I do, I'll give you guys something to watch. But I'll tell you what, man. Last time I talked to Ricky Morton, I probably told you guys the same thing. Just go on YouTube, man, and type in Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express or Rock and Roll Express versus Ole and Arn Anderson. Either combination. I tell you, you want to watch tag team wrestling at its finest. Those are some of the best teams that ever graced the insides of a square circle. Watch the salesmanship, watch the fire, watch the teamwork, just the whole presentation, man. I love watching great tag teams wrestle. And the ones I just mentioned, with the Rock and Rolls as the baby faces, holy smokes, that action is hard to beat. And listen to those hot-ass crowds that are watching that stuff, man. It's the boys in the ring working the people out there in the stands, not the other way around. Yeah, back in the old days, some good stuff, real good stuff from some badass tag teams. That's what I recommend you watch. Hey, man, let me throw down a couple of plugs at you guys. All my T-shirt designs are over there at BrokenSkullRanch.com. All the stuff that I wore on Broken Skull Challenge, I've got some new stuff being worked on right now, and you can catch all that stuff there. Get some badass stuff. Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing here in Cali. You can find it at Whole Foods and Total Wine. You can find a link to click on it and have it delivered to your house at BrokenSkullRanch.com. And, hell, we can't forget about the Cold Steel, Broken Skull, Steve Austin pocket knife. You can get a link to that at BrokenSkullRanch.com. Hey, man, I appreciate all the word-of-mouth advertising y'all are doing on behalf of this podcast. I don't have an advertising budget. I appreciate y'all supporting the sponsors of the Steve Austin podcast, because if it wasn't for those cats, I wouldn't be able to do this for you for free twice a week. So once again, I'm going to give a big shout out to Audible. Start a 30-day trial and download your first audiobook for free at audible.com/Steve Austin. Big thanks to my buddy Dallas at ddpyoga.com/Austin. Get 20% off anything you buy for a limited time only, including the collector's edition DVD and Blu-ray of the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary. Big ups to Buffalo Wild Wings. They new to the podcast. Hey, wings, beer, sports. I dig it. And, of course, a big thank you to Amazon, who've been supporting this podcast since day one. Folks, if you use my Amazon links whenever you're doing any online shopping, Amazon will kick back a couple of bucks to the podcast, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no hidden fees or charges. You can buy whatever you plan on buying and help out the podcast in the process. And you can find my Amazon links by going to PodcastOne.com, clicking on the Killer Deals button in the top right corner of the page, and then hitting the Steve Austin Show button. I got Amazon links for USA, UK, and Canada. So once again, just go to PodcastOne.com, click the Killer Deals button in the top right corner, then click on the Steve Austin Show. All my great sponsors are there. My Amazon links are there. I ain't asking for no handout. That's the best way you can help contribute to the show, help us pay our production costs, and this show will always be free. I thank you very much for that. If you bookmark it, you can find it in just one click. Coming up on the Thursday Unleashed show, the one and only Superman from Compton, C.T. Fletcher. I went down to his place, his gym, Iron Addicts in Long Beach, California, the LBC, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. Movie is about to film with Bill Goldberg, his 10 Commandments of muscle growth, some classic cars, great promos, and there may have been a challenge thrown down here or there, but it's always fun to talk to my buddy C.T. Fletcher. He's badass. Listen on Thursday and you'll get what I mean. And hey, the 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Stream blockbuster hits like 21 Jump Street, Ted, The Expendables, and so much more on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.